Hi, everyone. It's Stephanie with The Patient Story, and I'm so excited to be able to introduce our guest today, here to share his story, and it's incredible. Richard, joining us from Dallas. Richard, thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Well, it's great to be part of this. I love to tell people what's happening and how things are going with my clinical study and just life in general. Just get another friend out there.
Yes, I do feel like, just right when I was able to talk to you on the phone, even without meeting you yet, the energy that you have is so infectious. And so really thrilled to be able to share that joy with everyone today. But before we get into your cancer story, we know that you are so much more than that. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I moved here from Chicago 42 years ago, so I think I'm going to stay. I'm married, have two children. Well, they're adults now. Elizabeth, she's my business partner. We have a tamale company. And Richie, my son, is into real estate. In fact, last year he was cited the best property landlord for the homeless. He helps people transitioning back into society from wherever. My wife, she just let the design business that she was in for years. I say she was set free now. So now she works for my daughter in the bodega we opened for the tamale company.
A busy, fun life. Your children sound amazing. Sounds like an incredible family. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
We'll have to ask you more about the tamales later.
Right.
But first, for today, of course, we're talking about, what you've been through, and it's been many years now. But let's rewind back to 2016, Richard. That's when you first learned that you had cancer. Can you describe, it was March 2016, you were 62, and you were told you had diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, a type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Can you recall the moment you were told you had cancer and what you were feeling and thinking?
It was like, okay, how did I get it? Where did it come from? And how do I get rid of it? Three things in my mind. So I thought, I want to go to the MIT of cancer research. And I found out that would be MD Anderson. So that's like only 4 hours from here, from Dallas. So I would go down, and I found out I actually submitted myself into MD Anderson. You didn't have to have any doctors, signatures, or okay, he needs to come and see you. And I called them today. I need an appointment. I got this and this. And they said, okay, have all your records sent down here. So I sent my records down there. I mean, in 2 days, I had an appointment. So, and then that's where we did the R-CHOP chemotherapy. After one round, there was no evidence of disease, no evidence of cancer. So I thought, hey, I'm good with one. This is good. They knocked it out. Let's go. I'm done. They said, no, you're going to have to do like 5 or 6 more. So I did. Plus, at the beginning, I was pretty well real health conscious in my diet and exercising and trying to stay fit. But I really had to step it up now that I had a culprit in my body that wanted residence.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know you were told R-CHOP, it's a pretty standard regimen assigned for, DLBCL. You're like, okay, great. No more evidence of disease. I'm done. They're like, nope, you have 5 more to go. I know you told me you did 4 more. You decided to stop. And that's probably for quality of life reasons, I imagine. Can you describe what those side effects were? Do you remember the side effects from the chemo that you experienced? Did you have the usuals when you were going through
hair
chemo?
loss, appetite loss, just it's just lose all the way around, I thought. So that's why I needed to get out of it. And let's see. And then I decided I wanted to stop.
I know you said then you stopped the chemo, and then I do want to say that it was great in terms of you were no evidence of disease for 5 years after that, right? You
Right.
were living life. How do you know that the cancer was back?
The tumor came back. I'll call it a tumor, but I call it the culprit because I don't like to name it what it is. Anyway, because it's not going to stick around. Because the tumor came back, I had edema in my leg. Tried to self-treat myself for 7 or 8 months. And my friend is, we ride bikes together, and he lives in Houston, but I'll go down there and ride bikes. And he just looked at my leg and said, "Oh man, you need whatever you're doing is not working fast enough. You need to have that looked at." So then I made the appointment at and to see Dr. Owan, and he just said, "Okay, you can continue what you're doing. It's fine with me, or you can do this, or you can do this." And then he said, "There's a non-chemo test I'd like you to take." So I just said, "Well, we have a tamale company." So that was like, right in the beginning of the tamale season where it just goes berserk. So I just said, "How about January?" He goes, "Yeah, you'll still have it in January and I'll still be here and we can still do the same thing." So then COVID was at its peak, and he just said, "No, we can't start now. We got half the staff, people are getting sick, it's taking twice as long to see one patient because of all the work you have to do, sterilizing everything." So he just goes, "No, you can't start." But then 2 days later, he called me up and goes, "Hey, we can do this. We can, as an outpatient, And so I started with the selinexor-venetoclax. And then it causes nausea. He kind of punched me in the arm. So don't be a cowboy, take the medicine, He's right. You can still, I take it so you don't have the symptoms, but you still have that feeling in your stomach,
And I do want to get into the side effects too, because I know people have a lot of questions about that. Before we go there though, Richard, when Dr. Awan was discussing these different treatment options, so you can continue doing what you're trying out, testing this holistic stuff, but then he also introduced a couple others. How did he describe this clinical trial with venetoclax selinexor that interested you? Do you remember the conversation that you had with him when you were trying to decide the right way to go?
I said, it's, you can take it and go to work, Come in and we'll watch you the first few times you take it, and then the first few weeks, because in the beginning, it's a step up. So you increase the amount, the dosage of each drug. So, and then they want to watch me in the hospital to see for the first 3 days after you take selinexor. And that's typically about 2 days, 2.5 days for when I still take it, because I only take that once every 7 days.
Actually, and so just to clarify, for people who are so unfamiliar with these two, venetoclax and selinexor, these are pills, right? So you're taking them orally. Can you describe more of what that's like, how many pills and how often you're taking them?
Okay, so every day I take venetoclax, and that's 7 tablets, and they're about your average 300 unit vitamin C tablet. Can be mistaken for that, about the same color too. So 7 of those, I just take them all at once and swallow. I swallow, I take a bunch of water, make sure I can open my throat, and then just take them all like boom, done. And then there also an hour before that, they give you some medicine to prevent nausea. And so I usually take those, set my alarm, then take the venetoclax after that. And then there's other drugs, 2 hours before you go to sleep to prevent nausea for when you wake up. But I usually don't take that. I'm asleep and it doesn't bother me. And I don't notice it when I wake up. So it hasn't been that intense with me.
People can have their own reactions and side effects that they feel, but it sounds like for you it's been pretty good. When you say 7 pills, is that both the venetoclax and the selinexor, or is that's just the venetoclax?
Yeah, every day, 7 pills.
Right.
Take 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I take probably 13. And then the other pills are very small, for nausea and for, I guess, something to help keep my lungs, keep me breathing better.
Protect the lung capacity.
I'm all for that.
So all those other pills you're talking about daily, those are to help prevent the side effects with the
Yes,
with the
correct.
pills.
Yeah,
And then
they do, and
yeah.
they're very good.
Oh, good. So that helps a lot. And do you remember what the names of are those? If not, we can always drop those in later.
I might have it right here.
Ah, handy. Oh, there's a notebook. Yes.
Venetoclax, prochlorperazine, olanzapine, lopamine, ardenesterin, acyclovir. I take that twice a day, one in the morning, one at night, and allopurinol, and then the selinexor. The selinexor is a tiny blue pill that's packed full of energy.
And you take that once a day?
Once every 7 days.
Yeah. That's right. Once every 7 days.
There's, I think it's 80 milligrams, which is only, there's 4 tablets.
And so I know, how long have you been on this? And talk a little bit more about, people really get interested in, okay, so the side effects and how you manage them. We'd love to learn from you.
Yeah, I'm going into my 5th cycle, which would be my 5th month. And the first 3 weeks, they admitted me to the hospital for 3 days. And I loved it. It was great. Great hospital. I had a view in Dallas overlooking Love Fields and the 22-foot windows. So it's ceiling to floor windows. And, it's the COVID, so nobody could come see me, but not the nurses, they didn't want to come in the room, only if they had to do blood, boom, they're in and out. But so I got lots of work done, made lots of phone calls, I read a lot, and got to watch a lot of planes land at Love Field in the night. It was great. And so the second time, they said, well, you're doing so well, we don't think you need to do the 3rd time. So when you go in, they say, because you're on Medicare, if you think you're being put out too early, if you can protest that and you can stay. And so I did that the 2nd time. So instead of, they said 2 days, and I got to stay 3. Because it was great. Nobody was around. It's like my own little resort. And my wife used to love to see me go too. Oh, sorry to see you go.
So it was great for everyone all around.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, and the menu, they just have a full menu, and you can order all from like 6:30 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. You can order anything you want all day long. It was great. The 3rd week, they said, oh, you're doing so well, we don't think you need to go in. So when they tell you about your Medicare, I said, I'm switching this around. I think I should be admitted, and I'm using my Medicare, my Medicare rules, So let me in. So they thought, I guess they thought it was funny, so they let me go in one more weekend. I was the poster child for the selinexor.
Because you were just rocking and rolling. Well, that's great because, people I think get nervous anytime there's a new treatment. They're not sure about things. And that's the purpose of having these clinical trials, of course, is to just see how people do. So for you, is there anything more? So you were saying there's some nausea, but as long as you take those anti-nausea medications beforehand, you're good, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, no problem at all.
And what are any other side effects that you have had to deal with? And if you have any tips for other people on how to manage them?
Well, it is pretty invigorating. In fact, I was never a night owl, but now I am. It's like uh, I don't require that much sleep. Although I do sleep very well.
So for you, you've had the opposite of fatigue. You've had somehow
Yeah,
a lot of energy.
that's right. And
Well,
it's the only place I know it's coming from is the tablets I'm taking.
and it's very interesting.
I like it.
Yeah. And so, you've been through different experiences. So first, back in 2016, it was the chemo, R-CHOP, and now you're on this venetoclax selinexor trial. Can you compare the differences in the experience of going through each kind of treatment?
Oh yeah, like night and day. The R-CHOP, it's torture, you know. But yeah, it's not the disease that'll kill you, it's the treatment. And you know, in MD Anderson, it's just massive acres and acres of zombies barking around. That's what I saw. But you got to talk to people because they're everywhere. They're on every transportation around the area coming in. You can't avoid it. So you can't avoid not addressing it. It's like, hey, what are you in for? How'd you end up here today? They're I'm kind of waiting for somebody to ask them.
Right. People want to talk, right? People want to
right.
share.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And how are you getting monitored now, Richard? How often are you going in to see your doctor?
Every other week, I believe, blood work. And once a month, I see Dr. Owan. And I've had 2 PET scans. Not crazy about that because that's just all sugar, but it gives a great picture, And I saw pictures today of the intruder, the culprit, when I started in January, and it was like spreading into my kidneys and my whole lymph system, and I saw it in January, and then it's like a little tiny pea size today. Like it's gone. And I kind of felt that yesterday that when I was having my PET scan, it's just flat, nothing there, no picture, no anything. And it turned out great.
That is incredible, Richard. First of all, I just want to say I'm so glad to hear that, because I understand the feeling of what people say is scanxiety, right? The anxiety every time you go for a scan, what's going to come out on the other side. And it sounds like you've had another night and day moment. Can you describe the feeling of being able to see, right there in front of your face, the evidence, like the picture, the scan, and seeing it go from, whatever it was to down to what you're saying is a pea size?
This works. It's gone. This worked or is working. And I have, unless I need to stay on this, or unless but every day there's new studies coming out, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll do this for a while, keep it at bay, and then soon something will come up and say, here's a clinical study. Take this pill one time, and you're good. And that's kind of what's on the horizon. Even the CAR T, when I was first introduced to CAR T, it was just like, I'm getting out of here, no way, you're not doing that to me. In fact, my wife and I asked the PA that was telling us all about CAR T and how it was done, and this was 2016, remember, that it was just like, no way you're gonna do that to me. It's come a long way too, and the next thing's right around the corner.
Right. There's so many developments that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's part of this conversation. With the CAR T, I'm just curious. I know this was from before. What was it about it that turned you off to wanting to pursue that?
Put you in the hospital and completely annihilate your immune system, and you'll be there for about 2 weeks. It's like, whoa, that's the last place I want to be, as a hospital, when you have no immune system. That's where sick people are. And so, I don't know, it seemed so harsh. And then it said, yeah, we take your T cells out and we send them to college, and then we put them back in, and there's still a chance of all this stuff, you know. So my wife and I asked the guy, I said, well, would you, if this was your daughter, would you give her this treatment? And he couldn't look at us. So we just said, see ya.
I'm out of there.
That was our answer.
Absolutely. You talked about this just now, Richard, about all these developments that are happening that are really exciting, including
Yeah.
trials like this venetoclax selinexor one. How does it feel to have, to be part of this wave where there are these new options? What is your message to other patients out there, and not just patients, but their partners, their spouses, their family members, their caregivers?
Yeah. We could be trendsetters. You're part of this. Like when you beat cancer, how'd you feel? Hey, yeah, put me on the poster, you know. Just we're part of it. We're part of it. If you don't think you can change the world, you're doing it.
I love that. And I do want to ask one more thing before we shift over to focusing on clinical trials. And that is, it sounds like for you, a lot of the decision making was about the quality of life. Can I go to work? Can I resume life and live it the way I want to? So what does it mean to you to be able to, do this at home, essentially, to be able to take pills, and not have to go to the hospital? The way other treatments
Right.
work.
Yeah. It was a day of travel, and then a day of chemo, and you need a day to rest before you travel again. So that was never any fun. And then it didn't get better for a week. And then he got better, and then all of a sudden, no, he got to go back. So, oh man, here we go again. But I was getting better, so there was like, it was necessary for me to do that, because that was the only thing I knew at that time, and to watch my diet and then not take sugar and not do anything. I cut out everything, and my daughter, I had the luxury of owning my own business, so my daughter kept me sequestered. Like, where are you at? You got a hand cleaner with you, just go home. And so I had that luxury and support. But I remember going to meetings about just diet change and being a total plant-based. And wow, even that, if you don't have support at home, you're out of it. If your kids don't want to eat that way, or they don't want to try new things, you're cooking for yourself, and that's no fun. That's why a lot of people, I know just how much support they need to do, like something as simple as changing what you eat.
Right. It's so much more. I love that you're describing this, because there are a couple things that you touched on I'd like to dig deeper in. One is, when you're making decisions about treatment, I think a lot of people who don't know the situation, whether they just haven't had experience with health issues, or they just never have been a patient, they're like,
Right.
well, if there's a treatment and you're getting better, like the chemo you were talking about, who cares about the quality of life issues? I mean, it's your life that's paramount. Just do it. People, I think, they're like, they don't get it. So how would you describe to them, what it means to have to deal with all these, again, quality of life issues, and what makes them so important?
When you see them shortening before your eyes, just being able to move and feel good and get about and not be sequestered somewhere, and just it's freedom. And yeah, I was just real fortunate to have my whole family behind me and actually caring more than I did sometimes about it. You know, when they got to make you do something, somebody would always take me to Houston, either my daughter or my wife. And so that was a 2.5-day deal. And that was about the 4-hour car rides are always the best conversations, you know.
That's wonderful. I love that you could see the silver lining in everything. But you're making another important point, which is, you know, being able to be at home, not having to go and travel and, you know, spend so much time somewhere else, which can only be possible for a lot of people if they have caregivers, and not everyone has, as you call it, a luxury of that. So is that another, you know, reason why you think that these new treatments might be incredibly helpful for people?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, if you got the support. I mean, my wife, I stay out of it most of the time. So she tells me what's on my chart, and of course, I keep up on my medication, but I like to. So my phone, my alarm goes off of my phone throughout the day for different reasons, and it's like, did you take your medicine? Oh, what medicine? Yes, I did. Thank you for reminding me. You know.
So that's wonderful. You have a fail safe there. You have both the alarm and your wife who are making sure you're on it. I love it. Do you have any other tips for people in terms of going through this kind of treatment that you've learned in these last few months?
The ability to encourage somebody, you know, to keep on going, because it does get better. And I have is it the large cell, where it's not going to go away. But like I said, there's the next thing is right down the line, you know? And CAR T would wipe it out forever, but and there's an over-the-counter CAR T coming out, more or less over-the-counter, a simplified, which make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my PA, physician assistant. You know, I bring in a record of what I take, what time I take it, and how much of it I take, and anything comments. And I had everything all filled out, and he's going like, wow, this is amazing. You have this whole everything documented. I said, I was told that they have it documented. And he goes, yeah, some people are taking so many other medications for different things that they'll say like, oh, I forgot to take it this week. You know, it's like, wow. And just, is it that has to be built into the system, I would think, you know, the dosage or, but I could not just forget, oh, I forgot to take those.
I actually wanted to ask you about that. We're now shifting into this last part, but it's about the, you know, process of being in a clinical trial. And you just brought up how you have to log things. Can you talk about just, yeah, what you do have to do, and then we'll rewind a little bit and talk about what made you go for it in the first place. But yeah, what kind of log keeping are you doing?
Every day they ask for the time you take, the medication, the dosage, and any comments. And I have my list right here that I was reading before, that I know what to take. And then my alarms on my phones. And there's a difference between being in a clinical study. It's like, and I was thinking, I do have a life, you know. It's not like going through chemo and you're out of commission for 2.5 weeks because what you did to yourself 2.5 weeks ago, you know, submitted yourself to chemotherapy. And it is like I got my life back, you know, whether I had to, you know, take pills. I never thought I wanted to be the person who has the daily pill things out all the time, but I keep them hidden, and I keep them in a certain and I keep them in a sequence order that I take the pills. So, and I move them to one side of the cabinet from one, because there's so many of them. Yeah, there's, like I said, was 13 different ones. So I move, when I take them, I move it to the other side of the cabinet so I don't forget. And then the next time I see them over here, and then I'll move them across. Have my list in
Yeah.
there and take it. Because the clinical study, when you're taking the dosages home, they really want documentation. They want a backup, you know. Not like, did you take these? Yeah, I think so.
They want to be sure, and it's a very organized process. You know, for people who haven't ever participated in a clinical trial, I think there are a lot of concerns. You know, they worry about, you know, it being an experiment or something, you know. But how did you decide to participate? You know, we hear a lot from doctors, of course, who are supporters and say, you know, this is, you know, a responsible, you know, treatment. It's not like they're just, you know, putting patients out there to be guinea pigs. This has already gone through a process before it even gets to patients. But for you, what helped you get there?
Dr. Owan, he was real encouraging. And he's just like, great, I support what you're doing, but you know, after the tamale season, when it's still here, I'll be right here, you know, and we can start. Because whenever you decide. And so that was kind of the complete opposite from MD Anderson when I went there, and they're like, we'd get you started, but you know, and they're like, you know, like now, you know.
So that makes a big difference, right? For you, it's
Yeah.
about the rapport, the relationship with the doctor.
Yeah,
Can you
he's a
talk
great
more
guy.
about that, actually?
Yeah, he's a great guy. In fact, everybody on his staff is really good. Liffy, you know, they just talk to you not as a patient, they just talk to you and tell you what's going on and say, okay, here it is. Things are looking really good. Do you have any concerns or questions? Or and they tell you what's coming up, you know, say, well, when they started to increase my dosage every week, it got more intense, you know, on the nausea. And I don't want to play up that so much. It's there, and I don't want to talk about it because it's not something to emphasize. You know ahead of time it's going to be there. You take the pills, boom, it's good. So yeah, and I'd love to talk to somebody, some other patients, because mainly I've not ventured into like, oh, go on the internet and find out all about it. You got to make, you know, find out all this stuff. It's like, no, that's not for me. I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing, live my life, selling tamales and forgetting about it. And I have a caretaker, Debbie, that she takes care of me, so I can count on her because I can go off in the other direction pretty quick.
Do you want, since you're talking about it, just to highlight the importance of the caregiver and the role that they play, these sort of unsung heroes, right?
It's like, we just got it. They got to orchestrate the whole thing. You know, they're taking care of you. They're making sure you stay alive, you know, that you eat. And my wife can make some gorgeous meal, and I just like, oh, wow, you know, and then I just take one bite and just say, yeah, you know, I can't. I just can't. She's like, ah, that's great. That's fine. Just we'll put it away, you know. Keep it up with my friends because I don't talk a whole lot about my illness to my friends or actually anybody. I let my wife talk about it too. If you need to know, she knows. It's like, oh yeah, how old am I? Oh yeah. I don't, she keeps track of all that.
You keep track of life in general, not just treatment, right? You know, it's interesting. You have this, again, I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, but this energy about you. How do you keep, you know, people will wonder like, you know, especially if you're dealing with relapsed refractory cancer, something where you know, you went through treatment already and then it comes back and you know, feels like a long journey and a long experience. How do you keep the positivity or, you know, the momentum going forward? What's your guidance to other people?
Know that there's a God. You got to find out for yourself. And what a better time than when you're close to what you might think is the end of your life or something. And what a better time to connect. Just, I also do a thing called, you ever heard of Wim Hof? Oh, it'll change your life. He's also known as the Iceman, and he does breathing treatments, and he does like, he'll climb the Himalayas in his gym shorts. He's just Wim Hof. He's an amazing guy, and he does these breathing techniques, and you do a round of those, and in the morning, and just you're charged. And just meditation is very important, you know, because I'm alone a lot, so you better like being with yourself, because especially during this all the quarantine we went through, and you have to want to be an introvert. But you spend a lot of time alone. So a lot of guided meditation. There's some great ones on the internet. I use them all. Meditation is great. And stay active,
Right.
you know, stay physically active, walking also jogs the brain. And if you walk with somebody, it makes the jaw move quick too.
That's right. Movement everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
just get things flowing. Before I forget, do you have a message to patients, other people who might be considering a clinical trial? Just a message to them about, from your experience, what you feel about it, the importance of being able to participate for yourself and maybe for other people as well.
Yeah. First thing I ask is, what's the success rate, you know? And they tell you realistically, and then I want to hear all the benefits, and then I don't want to hear all the fine print, you know, all the side effects. The one big thing was that we talked about, upset stomach, but you know, and then you have the list this long with other side effects. Could be more possible to be struck by lightning, you know. Who knows, all those side effects. Just go into it thinking you're gonna be cured, you know. The positive, that help me. Just like I can see myself at the end of this. There's no evidence, but I still have a ways to go. So I guess it never really leaves you the idea of it coming back, but that's okay. I'll deal with that.
And actually, on that note, how has your doctor described, you know, how long you'll be on this, and yeah, how do you approach that?
Oh, in fact, today he said, yeah, forever, because the type of lymphoma I have, the large cell B follicular, unless I do the CAR T, or as Awan said today, or you get the next thing that's right around the corner, you know, and it's rapidly happening all the time. You know, more and more studies have been approved.
So, Richard, you talk about how your doctor said this is indefinite. You're going to be continuing to take these pills. Some people might be a little bit nervous about the maintenance, sort of, you know, it's ongoing. But how do you feel about it?
Just got to do it, you know. So what you got to do? What's next? You know, I don't want to get all caught up in that. Just like, yeah, that's fine. I got it. I know how to do it. Let's go on. What's next? You know.
So just keep moving forward. That's the way you approach things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Think of it, you know, if you have trouble, think of it as you're a Boy Scout, and you're working for your badge, but you're gonna get it, because everybody else has got a badge. You want that banner with all the badges on it.
And I've heard other people talk about it as, when the general population hears cancer, they think of the movies and that kind of cancer. But when you have medication now, drugs, treatments, therapies that work, but might have to be indefinitely taken, like the venetoclax, selinexor you're on,
Right.
People consider it more as, oh, it's like a chronic illness. It's just like if I had something else and I just, that's how I manage it, as opposed to, oh my gosh, there's this impending doom kind of a feeling. It's more like, this is manageable. Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah. I did talk to a patient, I don't remember their name or anything, but they said that we live better than the Vanderbilts or the ever did, or any of those people along, the wealthiest of the wealthy people. We live so much better than they did because they didn't have the same medical institutions that we have now. They get a cold, they could get pneumonia and die. And running water and bathrooms and all that. We live better than the Vanderbilts ever did, and the Rothschilds put together. And it's only getting better. It's like, what will they think of next?
I love that. And as they say, health is wealth. So that just,
right.
that.
Oh, that's great. I like that too. That's good. I got more wealth than the Vanderbilts.
So my last question is to you, Richard. You talked about being open about your story. How important is it for people, patients, to share their stories? It's not just about the data and the numbers and everything, but the quality of life, the day-to-day, how you're living as a human being through these treatments. How important is it for people to share that and for other people to listen to the stories?
Oh, it's cleansing. It's part of the healing. I'm talking to you. I made it this far. I'm going to tell you what else is going on. And you learn a lot about yourself. And maybe you put some limits on yourself. That then when you hear yourself say it, oh, did I say that? I guess I am like that. And then it brings change.
Change is kind of the key word here, I think.
Change is where you have to.
Right, and adapting. And so, Richard, I really want to say thank you again for sharing your story, your voice. You're bringing so much positive energy to what can be, of course, a very difficult situation. Very glad to hear you have such a support system around you as well.
Yes, see, there's encouragement everywhere. I just want to pass that on. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Richard, for again doing all this, and for everyone who is interested in Richard's story and what he shared today. You will find it at The Patient Story, where we give human answers to your cancer questions.